Imagine you are standing in front of a mirror. You see a smudge of dirt on your forehead. Now, imagine you spend the next 3 hours scrubbing the surface of the mirror, trying to get that dirt off. You scrub until your arms ache, you use every cleaning spray in the cabinet, but no matter how hard you work, the dirt stays right there on your face. It sounds ridiculous, right? You just wash your face. But this is exactly how most of us live our lives. We try to fix our external world, our jobs, our relationships, our bank accounts, to fix a feeling that actually starts inside our own heads. What if I told you that 99% of your suffering has absolutely nothing to do with your life problems and everything to do with the way you think about them? Welcome to the end of your own mental treadmill. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we are exploring a book that is deceptively simple but has the power to completely rewire your brain. It's called Don't Believe Everything You Think by Joseph Nguyen. Now, there are thousands of self-help books out there telling you how to think, positive thinking, affirmations, manifestation. This book is different. Joseph Nguyen isn't here to give you better thoughts. He's here to show you how to stop thinking altogether, at least the kind of thinking that makes you miserable. By the end of this episode, you're going to understand the life-changing distinction between thought and thinking, why your intuition is a much better pilot than your intellect, and how to find a state of peace that doesn't depend on your circumstances. If you've ever felt like your mind is a roommate that won't stop screaming at you, this episode is your eviction notice for that roommate. Let's start with a radical idea. Joseph Nguyen argues that human suffering is optional. That's a big claim, isn't it? We usually think suffering is caused by losing a job, a breakup, or a stressful deadline. But Nguyen suggests that those are just events. The suffering only starts when we begin to tell ourselves a story about those events. He draws a very sharp line in the sand between two things we often confuse, thought and thinking. Think of thought as a noun. It's a spark. It's the raw material that pops into your head. You don't control it. It's like a bird flying past your window. You didn't ask the bird to fly there, it just appeared. Thinking, however, is a verb. It's an action. It's when you see that bird, open the window, invite it in, feed it, and start worrying about where it's going to sleep and what happens if it poops on your rug. Thinking is the act of actively engaging with your thoughts, fueling them with energy, and spinning them into a web of what-ifs and should-haves. Thought is a gift. Thinking is a trap. Think about a time you were driving and someone cut you off in traffic. The initial thought might be, "That was dangerous." That's just information. But the thinking is when you spend the next 20 minutes imagining an argument with that driver, calling them names in your head, and letting it ruin your entire morning. The driver is long gone. They aren't hurting you anymore. You are the one hurting yourself through the process of thinking. Noon's core message is that our feelings don't come from the world. They come 100% from our thinking in the moment. Now, I know what you're thinking, ironically. You're thinking, but I need my brain. I need to solve problems. If I don't think, how will I get anything done? This is where Nguyen gets really insightful. He explains that there's a massive difference between your thinking mind and your intelligence. Your thinking mind is limited. It's based on the past, on fears, and on a very small ego. But your intelligence, or what he calls infinite intelligence, or intuition, is where your best ideas actually come from. Think about your best aha moments. Did they come while you were frantically overthinking and stressing out? Probably not. They usually come when you're in the shower, or out for a walk, or just about to fall asleep. They come when your thinking mind finally shuts up long enough for a real thought to drop in. We don't solve our way out of suffering, we let go our way out of it. Before we dive into how actually to stop this cycle and find what Nguyen calls the state of non-thinking, let's take a quick pause. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the mechanics of your mind, please take a moment to subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leaving a 5-star review helps us keep the lights on and keeps this content free for everyone. It's a small gesture, but it means the world to us. Plus, it's one less thing for you to overthink today.
So let's get back to the state of non-thinking. This isn't about becoming a vegetable or a monk in a cave. It's about being in the flow state. You've felt this before. Maybe you were playing a sport, painting, coding, or just having a great conversation with a friend. In those moments, you weren't thinking about what you were doing. You were just doing it. Time disappeared. You felt light, capable, and alive. That is our natural state. Nguyen argues that the only reason we're not in that state all the time is because we've been conditioned to believe that more thinking equals more safety. We think that if we worry enough about the future, we can prevent bad things from happening. But worry is just practicing failure in your mind. It doesn't change the outcome, it just robs you of your peace today. He uses a beautiful analogy of a clear lake. Your mind is like that lake. Naturally, it is calm and clear. You can see all the way to the bottom. But when we start thinking, it's like we're taking a big stick and stirring up the mud at the bottom. The water becomes cloudy. We can't see anything. So what do? We try to fix the cloudiness by stirring the water even faster with more thinking. But you can't clear mud by stirring it. The only way to see the bottom again is to take the stick out, sit back, and wait. The mud will settle on its own. This is a complete reversal of how we usually handle stress. We usually think we need to work through our problems. Nguyen says we need to drop them. The moment you stop feeding the thinking, the feeling of stress begins to evaporate. But why is this so hard? It's hard because our ego is terrified of silence. The ego lives in the thinking. It needs problems to solve so it can feel important. If you're not worrying, who are you? If you're not planning, are you even productive? Nguyen challenges us to realize that we are the observer of our thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. If you can hear the voice in your head, you cannot be the voice in your head. You are the one listening, and that listener is always at peace. One of the most powerful parts of the book is when he discusses the root cause of all suffering. He explicitly states it's not external, it's not your bank account, it's not your health, it's your belief in your negative thoughts. A thought only has power if you believe it's true. If I tell you right now that you're a pink elephant, you don't get offended. Why? Because you don't believe it. But if your mind tells you you're a failure, you get a pit in your stomach. Why? Because you've decided to believe a thought that is just as made up as the pink elephant. The secret isn't to stop the thoughts from coming. That's impossible. The secret is to stop believing them. You can acknowledge a thought like, oh, there's that I'm a failure thought again, and then just let it pass by like a cloud. You don't have to grab it. You don't have to argue with it. You just let it be.
Now, let's talk about the practical side of this. If you're like me, you're wondering, okay, I get it, thinking is the problem, but how do I actually stop when my brain is going 100 miles an hour? Nguyen offers us a bridge, and that bridge is feeling. He suggests that our feelings are actually a sophisticated guidance system, like a GPS for our souls. When you feel stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, that isn't a signal that your life is falling apart. It's a signal that your thinking is off track. It's like a warning light on your car's dashboard. When the oil light comes on, you don't get mad at the light, right? You don't try to smash the light to make it stop. You realize the light is doing you a favor. It's telling you something needs attention under the hood. Our negative emotions are exactly the same. They are a high thought alarm. When you feel that tightening in your chest, it's your system saying, hey, you're believing a story that isn't true. You've wandered into the maze of your own mind. Come back to the present. The moment you realize this, the feeling has done its job, and it often begins to dissolve. Nguyen introduces a concept that I think is one of the most liberating parts of the book, the idea of low-density versus high-density living. High-density living is when your mind is packed with shoulds, coulds, and musts. It's heavy, it's loud. Low-density living is what happens when you create space. It's where creativity lives. Think about a composer. Music isn't just the notes, it's the silence between the notes. Without the silence, it's just noise. Your life is the same. Without the space between your thoughts, your life is just mental noise.
To find that space, Nguyen suggests we stop trying to solve our feelings. We've been taught that if we feel sad, we should think about why we are sad. But if thinking created the sadness in the first place, more thinking is just going to make it worse. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. Instead, he invites us to let it be. Not let it go, because letting go often feels like a chore, but just let it be there without your interference. When you stop fighting a feeling, it loses its power over you. It's like a wave in the ocean. If you try to block the wave, it will knock you over. If you just float through it or float over it, you realize the water is just water. As we move toward the final takeaway, I want to talk about the goal. Most of us think the goal is happiness, but Nguyen argues that happiness is a fleeting emotion that depends on things going our way. The real goal is peace. Peace is the background of everything. Peace is what is left when the thinking stops. You don't have to create peace, you just have to stop creating the chaos that covers it up. So, how do we apply this in 2026, a world that is designed to keep us thinking? We are bombarded with notifications, news, and endless scrolls. Our environment is a thinking factory. Nguyen's advice is simple but radical. Trust your intuition more than your intellect. Your intellect is a library of the past. Your intuition is a compass for the future. If you're facing a big decision, stop the pros and cons list for a moment. Those lists are just products of the thinking mind. Instead, sit in silence. Get the water of your mind clear. When the mud settles, the answer usually presents itself. It's not a loud shout, it's a quiet knowing. That's the infinite intelligence talking. To wrap things up, here is your Don't Believe Everything You Think survival guide for a peaceful life. First, realize that suffering is the result of thinking, not thought. You can't stop thoughts from appearing, but you can stop the verb of thinking about them. Second, use your feelings as a compass. If you feel bad, it's not because your life is bad, it's because you're caught in a thought storm. Use that feeling as a reminder to take the stick out of the water and let the mud settle. Third, prioritize your state of being over your to-do list. When you operate from a state of peace and non-thinking, you are actually more productive, more creative, and much more pleasant to be around. You don't have to work hard to find the flow state. You just have to stop interrupting it. And finally, remember that you are the space in which thoughts happen, not the thoughts themselves. You are the sky. The thoughts are just the weather. The weather changes every hour, but the sky is always there, vast and untouched. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know this can feel a bit counterintuitive, using your mind to learn how to use your mind less, but that's the beauty of it. If you found a moment of peace during this episode, I'd love for you to share it with someone who's been feeling a bit overwhelmed lately. We all need that reminder that we don't have to believe the noise inside our heads.